All right, what is good, guys? I just finished installing my BBK big brake kit on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to do it on the other side. And while I'm in there, might as well do the studs while I'm doing the big brake kit. So I'll show you guys how to do that. Honestly, we could do this pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm gonna be showing you guys real quick how to assemble this. Mine came with everything disassembled. So got the caliper, the 2 brake pads, need these 2 pins, obviously the little bracket that holds everything, as well as these little pins right here. They do come in different shapes and colors, but this is the one that came inside of these, which is the StopTech street pads, which I'm going to be using for these. And I'll show you guys how to assemble everything real quick. All right, so first things first is go ahead and put it on its side like this. Go ahead and put the pads in. Like that. And like that. Let's see. Like this. And now, I can't do this with one hand, so I'm gonna have to use both, but you're gonna have to put it like this and just place that bracket right on top, and I'll show you guys how to do that in a second. All right, so this is how you're gonna wanna put the bracket. Just stack the bracket right on top and make sure you put the pins in through the back side of the caliper, so it'd be through this side. Also, make sure you have these holes facing up, that way you're able to put them like this and then insert these little pins down here into this hole. I'll show you guys in 1 second once everything is assembled, okay? All right, so this is it right here. I went ahead and put this bottom one in, and this is what I'm talking about, leaving the hole facing up. That way I can go ahead and put the pin in there. So you wanna make sure it goes in, under here, over this, under here, and directly all the way in here. This one, I'm having a little bit of trouble because the hole isn't lining up perfectly. As you can see, it's a little bit off. So I'm gonna play with it until I can kind of pull it up and then push it in. And then I'll show you guys how to put the pins in here. Okay, so I was able to use this pick tool right here to kind of pull this little pin up, and I was able to just shove it right in there. So now we have these holes facing up. We wanna go ahead and grab these little pins right here and go ahead and put them right there and just push them right in just like that. Same thing on the other side. And right there, safety pins now installed. The ones that actually came with it were these ones, but these were too small. Well, they would have actually fit, but I feel like they would have been harder to grab when it's time to replace these. As you can see the difference, these are the ones I put on are quite bigger, so I do kind of like these. Also, make sure that whenever it's all set, you want to make sure that all of these teeth are above the pads, which this one isn't. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull it over. There you go. Make sure everything is over the pad. Looks good right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the braided brake line in here and assemble it. Make sure that everything is good and ready to go for when I actually put it inside the car. Okay, so here it is. Here is the braided stainless steel brake line, as well as these banjo bolts right here and these 2 copper little washers. So what I want to make sure is that you actually do have these. I'm lucky these came in my kit. They came with the upgraded brake lines. However, if you are planning on upgrading your brake calipers, you are going to need these upgraded banjo bolts, even if you plan on running the stock brake lines, which kind of sucks a little bit, but I'll show you guys how to do this real quick. What you want to do is make sure you grab one, put a washer in it, put a washer directly in here, and then sneak it through the line on one of these. Sneak that through here and grab the other washer, put it on this side, and then stick it on and go ahead and tighten it, but not too crazy tight. I'll show you guys in a second. All right, so I went ahead and tightened this on nicely. You want to make sure that the natural curve of it is going back, instead of, if you were to flip this the other way, it would face this way and it wouldn't even make sense. And you also want to make sure that this is going up, facing up the same way that this little drain plug is. So if the drain plug was on this side, then you would want this to be facing the other way. And just tighten it, making sure it's nice. And we're gonna go ahead and take off the bracket for this side and the one that holds in this when we get to that. So now that the caliper is fully assembled and ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and actually jack up the car and take off the wheel, and I'll show you guys in a second. All right, so here is our stock setup right here. We have the regular Akebono brakes right here, which if you actually didn't know, these are actually Akebono, they say right there. However, we're gonna go ahead and take this off and replace it with our new one, as well as our drilled and slotted rotor. And we're also gonna be installing the extended studs. That way I can run spacers comfortably without having any worry. So first things first, we're gonna wanna go ahead and grab a 7/8 ratchet and go ahead and unbolt the actual caliper, which they are 2 bolts. Let me turn on the flash. Okay, here's the flash. So there are 2 bolts, this top bolt as well as this bottom bolt down here. We're gonna go ahead and take these off, and that's gonna release the actual caliper, and that's going to release pretty much the rotor as well. And take these off and then put the caliper on. Put the rotor on and then put the caliper on. And obviously these are the stock lines, and we're gonna go ahead and take this bracket off as well as this other bracket up here. Just go ahead and pull that. It's actually quite hard, so you might struggle with that a little bit. But first things first, grab a 7/8 ratchet, go ahead and take these off, and I'll get back to you guys once I take these off. They are very hard to take off, however. Okay, so I went ahead and got these pretty loose. Strategy that I found that works very well is actually going ahead and putting the wrench right here on the back side of it, and then grabbing something like maybe a hammer or whatever, just going ahead and smacking it, and that actually works very, very well. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish taking these off, and then I'll get back to you guys. I'll show you guys how to do one. Just go ahead and grab your beating stick, and literally all you have to do is just hit it. Whack it out just like that, and you're gonna go ahead and actually take them out all on this side where this little groove is. You just kind of want to line it up and take it out. See this little groove right here? If you want to take it out through any other way, it's not really going to come out. So go ahead and take the rest of them out, and I'll show you guys how to put the new ones in. Okay, so here are the new extended studs compared to the old studs right here. As you can tell, they are longer, and I'm going to show you guys how to install them. If you don't have a specific tool, I know there's tools that's going to make the job a lot easier, but you're going to go ahead and install it same way through the back side, through this groove right here. And if you don't have the tool that I'm talking about, go ahead and grab a bunch of washers. So just go ahead and grab a few washers, go ahead and pile them on one. Then you also need one of your lug nuts. So you're gonna go ahead and grab that and thread that on there. And as you can tell, you're just gonna go ahead and screw this on. And to prevent it from sliding, what you're gonna go ahead and do is maybe grab a bolt or something, go ahead and shove it in here to prevent it from turning. Maybe if we put a bolt on this side, no. If we put the bolt in like this, it might. And just go ahead and screw this on. Okay, so here is one of them actually installed. I'm actually gonna go ahead and come back later and pull this in just a little bit more, because I know for a fact that since this was holding it in its own place, that it didn't get the full turn. So gonna go ahead and do the same thing for the rest of them. But now that we have one of them threaded, as you can see, this isn't moving anywhere as long as you go ahead and turn it the right way. So once they're all installed, I'll go ahead and come back. So let me show you guys once how to pull one in and how this works. That way you guys don't have any questions. This is how you're gonna wanna put the bolt. Basically, if you're turning it this way, obviously this is gonna hold it. If you're gonna go ahead and loosen it up, I'll show you in a second, but go ahead and, it's easier with two hands, I promise. But go ahead and do that. Thread on your lug nut. All right, so this is hand threaded, and as you can see on the back, even if I turn it with my hand, actually, we're gonna go ahead and turn it with this, right? Ratchet, but just watch it get pulled in by itself. And now it's not turning anymore, and it's sitting nice and flush. So basically, now what you want to do is actually turn this back a little bit, put the bolt on the other side, and loosen it up. Loosen up. There we go. And go ahead and take off the lug nut and take off the washers, and repeat that with all 5 of them. All right, so here is all 5 studs on there, nice and firm. All right, so there's one very important thing that we have to do before we go ahead and throw our big rotor on there, and that is I grab these pliers right here on the other side and just go ahead. All right, so let me show you guys real quick what I went ahead and did in preparation to put the rotor on here. Now that the studs are beautifully on here, what I went ahead and did was use this tool right here. Go ahead and actually clamp the sides of it, because they're normally, as you will see in yours, they're normally facing kind of like a lip to it like this, and that actually prevents the rotor from the back side of it from fitting flush. So I went ahead and actually grabbed it and just rolled it up. I've seen people actually cut it, but normally that actually looks really bad. So just go ahead and flip it, and this one I just went ahead and flipped it back. However, you want to pay attention to this corner right here, and I've seen some people actually cut that part, but what I went ahead and did is just went ahead and clamped it and then like rolled it back. So now when I go ahead and put this on there, the caliper is going to fit perfectly because I went ahead and bent this corner. I might actually have to go ahead and bend it a little bit more because this might be sticking out a little too much, but I'll go ahead and see when I go ahead and put the caliper on there. But for now, the rotor is good to go. Let's go ahead and put this on there. Oh no, I'm struggling. All right, so now that the rotor is on there, here, this is what it looks like when it's flush, and make sure that nothing is actually rubbing on it. As you can see, no, not a sound, so it actually sounds really good. Now what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually grab the caliper, or actually, before we do anything, I'm gonna go ahead and unclip these. So this is just a little clip right here that is actually very hard to pull up, but basically what you wanna go ahead and do is maybe grab a little prying tool like this and go ahead and just kind of force it up. You want to make sure that you don't really damage this, or else, you know, fluid's gonna start leaking. But I'll go ahead and show you how it looks like once it's all done. Kind of want to move it up from the bottom first. There you go. Just move it up a little bit. Now that we have a little bit of space between here, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and force this up and out. Beautiful. So now we got this out, and we can actually, let's see, this caliper is actually resting on here, so I'm gonna move the caliper real quick. That way you can actually just pull this out and up. There we go. And now I'm actually gonna grab the caliper and relocate it to down here, now that I have a little bit more slack. That way it's not actually just resting on the rotor itself. All right, and now the other clip right here is gonna be this top one. Same thing, you're gonna wanna pull this clip out towards yourself. I wanna see if maybe I can get this one as well. Okay, that one wasn't too bad. Let's see, there we go. And this one is actually a little bit funny because you want to go ahead and pull it down so it can loosen up, but you also want to go ahead and kind of turn it a little bit. However, this one isn't going to pull out completely because you do need a 10mm in order to loosen this up. But before we do that, we actually want to go ahead and bolt the caliper up to where it used to be, back to these two holes right here using the OEM bolts. Stick that on there. That way, when we go ahead and unplug this, we can go ahead and come in with the new line and just boom, connect it and tighten it real quick. That way we don't lose too much fluid. But let's go ahead and grab the caliper, stick it on here, put it back on to these two bolts right here, and make sure that the clearance is good. Make sure that this corner isn't actually hitting the caliper itself. All right, so now we're getting to a more simple part. We're gonna go ahead and I went ahead and put the clip right here on this side. And now comes the dreaded part, which is going ahead and grabbing the 10mm. Let me turn on the flash real quick. All right, going ahead and grabbing the 10mm right here, unscrewing this, and then quickly going and screwing this one on here before you lose too much fluid. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna need both hands to do that, but you obviously are gonna have a little bit of leakage. Just make sure you have a little towel and make sure you pick that up. All right, so I went ahead and loosened this up right here. As you can see, it's turning very loose. You are gonna start to see the more that I do it, the more, let's see, we still don't have a leak quite yet, which is good, but the more you turn it, you're gonna start seeing more and more liquid come out. As you can see, it's already on my fingers. So just make sure you kind of do this a little bit quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and finish unscrewing it with this really fast. Is off. Now we're gonna go ahead and quickly bolt this one right on. I went ahead and, as you can see, put the new braided brake line on there. I'm gonna go ahead and hold it while I turn it with the other hand as well. I'm actually gonna go ahead and tighten it real quick and I'll get back to you guys in a second. All right, so I went ahead and tightened it up. This was a 10, this is a 14, no, my bad, a 3/4. So I want to make sure that there is nothing else leaking out of there. I'm going to go ahead and inspect it real quick. If there is, I'm going to go ahead and tighten it some more. But from now, it's a little hard to tell, but I'm actually going to go ahead and put the clip back in here. So go ahead and actually lift this up a little bit and tuck this in there.
Now, right here, you want to go ahead and finish putting in the clip and making sure everything is tight and nothing's leaking. If there's anything leaking, you want to go ahead and take care of that. Next up is you want to go ahead and bleed your system. Now, at this point, you've done everything right. Go ahead and slap your wheels back on, go on a little test drive, and just make sure that everything is running smoothly. If it is, go ahead and slap a like and subscribe.